Chapter 1. In the shadowy groves, where time rose sideways, where yesterday might politely wait for tomorrow to pass, a fruit was born. Not plucked, not planted, just there. Uninvited, unexplained, unapologetically perfect. A strawberry. Too red to be natural, too ripe to be trusted. It didn't shimmer, it smoldered. Glowing like a whispered secret from a thunder god's pillow talk. 3 Larquins crouched low in the moss, silent as moonlight caught in a spider's eye. The first one, Nib. He licked his lips. Twice. Once out of hunger, once out of habit. Tula blinked slowly, calculating the odds, like a gambler staring down 2-headed snakes. And Lupa leaned forward, pupils wide, voice low, and silk slick. That's mine. That one's mine. There is no question mark. Only the kind, dangerous certainty usually reserved for old queens and well-refined felines. Their faces, lit by filtered moonlight and bad ideas.
Midnight scratch!
Nib offered.
No, it's too dark,
Lupa replied.
I don't have night eyes. You don't have night eyes. The rest of us, well, hell, we just have hope.
Skywing,
Tula suggested.
No, that's too dumb,
said Lupa.
And we can't fly, remember?
I meant with vines. We're not acorns.
Nib stabbed a stick into the leaf, like a war general who had read half a book about maps.
We go now, with haste, with stealth, with guts.
He paused for a dramatic effect, hoping someone would notice. No one clapped. From behind a curtain of mushrooms, Gaffin scoffed loudly, pointedly, as only very old and very tired can.
This ends in bumble blood,
he muttered. And just to be sure they heard him, he muttered it again louder.
Bumble blood.
He wasn't wrong, but he was also ignored, which to be fair was tradition by now.
You think you were the first?
Gaffin growled. He reached into his leaf roll pouch and yanked out a crumbled scroll, inked in beetle blood, aged in regret. The others leaned in. He unrolled it with the care of a man revealing a crime scene, because it was one, in every sense but legal.
You half-eaten berry.
Gaffin grunted.
Got cocky. Went in from the top.
He jabbed a gnarled finger at the drawing.
Glued to the rind. Solid. Took 6 beetles, 2 full moons, and a sobbing apology to the ant colony just to peel him free.
Nib blinked. Tula winced. The Lupa said nothing, but noticeably stopped chewing her hair. Gaffin gave the scroll one last pat.
Hey, idiots.
The word hung in the air like a bad smell in a warm burrow. And yet no one argued. Not even Nib. As the trio prepared for the so-called harvesting of thy neighbor's fruit, a phrase Gaffin had described as agricultural trespass with delusions of grandeur. The operation began with enthusiasm, and immediately unraveled like a poorly spun nettle sock. Lupa wound up her arm with flair, gripping the thorn hook like a warrior poet. She let it fly, and it flew magnificently backwards. It whipped over her head and impaled a nearby toadstool, which, to its credit, barely flinched. Nib stepped forward, brushing leaf flecks off of his chest like a hero about to fail forward. He had constructed a vine sling, which he claimed was engineered for both
Launch and legacy.
whatever that meant. He pulled it taut. There was a twang, a snap, and the kind of grunt usually heard during amateur dentistry. He vanished briefly, then reappeared upside down in a puddle, face first, his legs kicked once for drama. Tula, trying not to make eye contact with the entire universe, concentrated on her knotwork with a grim optimism.
This one.
She muttered,
This one is from a practical book of secure bindings, Volume 2.
The knot took shape, briefly admired its own complexity, and then swiftly unspooled itself mid-sentence like a nervous worm at a spelling bee. Tula sighed, hands in lap.
We're not ready.
She said. There was a long pause by all, punctuated only by the sound of Nib dripping.
Perfect.
Said Nib, spitting the fern.
That means no one's gonna see us coming. Ha ha ha.
That night, they camped beneath the glow of the fruit, not near it or by it, but close enough to taste the dew if the wind blew just right. Lupa clutched her knees and counted the stars, as if she planned to invoice the sky later. Every 10th one was apparently hers. Ever the engineer of nonsense, stacked pebbles into precarious towers, each one slightly more unnecessary than the first. They had no purpose, no plan, no symmetry, but one of them looked suspiciously like Gaffin, and she quickly knocked that one over. Nib dreamed about snoring. He eventually did snore that night, into a root like he'd drawn it in a past life. Occasionally he murmured words like,
Jam!
or,
Bigget ba bala bala bigget baka bugas lata simam bla bala bla bala.
the strawberries still sat in the distance, pulsing softly, waiting for them to revive. A red moon on a bed of moss, glowing like something sacred, or radioactive, or both. Above, spores floated lazily like the drunk fireflies within the cinders of the fire that kept them warm. Low and ancient, it spoke in creaks and rustling, snaps and warnings, in the uneasy language of the bark and shadow.
Turn back. This is not your fault. It is watched. It is wanted. And it is wrong.
But the Larquins, they didn't hear any of that. Not over Nib's snoring. Just the lush of leaves and the sweet promise of forbidden dessert. Morning came. They stacked themselves like a bad idea. Tula crouched, Lupa braced, Nib scrambled upward, grinning like a thief in a jam jar.
Higher!
He gasped.
Look! Steady!
Lupa shouted. The fruit glistened above, closer than ever. They could taste it in their ears. But they weren't alone. The guardian beetle slumbered under fern shade, whatever that is. As big as a barrel, as silent as thunder about to begin. Lupa crept past its claw, breath held like a prayer, even though he could smell the beetle's rancid breath. A twig snapped it. Shit! Nib yanked the stem, ripped a chunk the size of a melon off of it and bounced. Juice streaked down his chest like a water plant and ran behind him.
Worth it!
He shrieked. The guardian stirred. Then all leafy frickin' hell broke loose. Tula dove into the fungus like a mosquito landing between your toes. You know you got it. Don't lie. Lupa somersaulted through moss. Nib ran like a goat on fire. The beetle gave chase. 6 legs, no mercy. You know beetles, if you're a Larquin. And behind it all, Gaffin, waving his staff and yelling,
I told you so. Stupid.
Well, they made it home. Breathless, berry-stained, victorious, beaten. This was immediate. One fainted mid-bite. One fainted just by looking at it, burrowed subconsciously into the dirt. Tula licked the moss for extra juice. That was weird. Gaffin just grunted and helped himself to a seed while scowling at everybody else. Nick dreamed he rode a beetle into the battle after they all fell asleep. Tula floated down a strawberry syrup river. Lupa glowed softly in the dark. The heist lived on in their dreams. Sweeter, more victorious, but also in reality stickier and less believable.